Today we're going to go through how to create airfoils in Creo with data points. So let's go ahead and get started. So to start with, what we're going to do is we're going to begin. You can see all I really have here is um, my data. So what I have is we're going to go to this site, um, which is the link that's right here. So we're going to go ahead and just click into that link. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that. We're going to click into the link. Here is our UIUC, Applied Aerodynamics Group, Department of Aerospace Engineering, their UIUC Airfoil Coordinate Database. And today we're going to do one called the Clark Y. So to do that, we're just going to click C, find Clark Y. There's a Clark Y airfoil. We don't want the GIF. So we're going to click Clark Y dat. And what you'll see, it has opened up this file. Has the airfoil. We can see a list of coordinates which go from 0, 0 over to 1, basically 0, and another set that go from 0, 0. These ones go negative, and they go up um, again to 1. But this is your upper portion of your airfoil. This is the lower portion. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this set of coordinates for the upper portion. We're going to grab that set of data. Oops. We're just going to do a copy. I'm going to go into my drive. So I'm just in my 10th grade drive. I'm going to open a blank spreadsheet. So let's open a blank spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and call it Clark Y. Oops. Clark Y. This is my spreadsheet. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and paste my data. So I'm just going to do a Control V, paste it in. You can see it's really just two sets of data as I do this. So there's two sets of data. These are XY coordinates. For Creo, because it's three-dimensional, we're going to need to have 3 columns of data. So we're going to actually create data in columns A, B, and C. So first off, we're going to take our data, and what we want to do is we want to split it. So we're going to do data, go down to split text to columns. It split my data. I want to add a third column. So it's all going to be zeros. This is my Z coordinates. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy that. I'm going to go down to the bottom of all my data set. Let me move this out of the way because it's just obstructing what we want to see. And let's make sure we got them all moved over. That was in the way. And I don't know why we have another one of these here. So I'll go ahead and move it out of the way. So here's our data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this column. I'm going to do a Control-Shift down arrow. That'll take me to the bottom of, oops. Actually, I just need to do a Control down arrow. That'll take me to the bottom column. So let me do that. Control down arrow takes me to the bottom. You can see that's the bottom of my data. I'm now going to move over into this third column. I'm going to do Control-Shift and up arrow, and so it'll select that whole thing. And I'm just going to paste my data with Control-V. So you'll notice if we scroll down, I just have a column that's all filled with zeros, which is what I wanted. Okay, one last piece that I need to do on this is I need to add a key up on the top. So I'm going to add a row above. I'm going to tell it my coordinates are X, Y, and Z. Okay. So what we want to do at this point is we're going to take this data and we're just going to download it. So we're going to download it as tab separated values. The reason we're doing that is because what Creo wants, it wants a coordinate with a tab, another coordinate, and then a tab, and our third coordinate. And so this will actually format our data pretty much for us. So I'm just going to say downloaded as tab separated values. It finished downloading. So let's go in. Here's my sheet one of this. And what I want to do is I'm just going to rename it. And one of the things is we know Creo does not like spaces, so we're going to get rid of all of those. And we're just going to call it the upper. So it's going to be the upper portion of our thing. And we really don't want it to be called TSV. What Creo wants to see is something called PTS for points. So it's Clark Y upper dot PTS. It's going to ask us, are we sure we want to change it? We're going to say yeah. So let's go open and take a look at this. Oops, select it. And it's thinking about open, so we're going to go ahead and open it. If we don't see the app, we can click more apps, but I'm just going to click Notepad and open it up. And you can see that there's XYZ, there's 3 columns. We can tell that they're separated by tabs because they're all nicely aligned. So this looks like exactly what we wanted, and it ends with our last data point. Okay, so we need to do the same thing with our other set of data. So to make this simple, I'm just going to add a second sheet, and we're going to do the exact same thing with our data for the lower portion of this. So we're going to go ahead and select that data, go down, we're going to do a copy, we're going to go into the second sheet, we're going to paste it. I'm not going to bother to expand that out for you. We're just going to go ahead and split it. So it's split into 2 columns. We're going to go ahead and add our third column. So we're going to add a 0. Make sure we're copying it. Control down arrow will take us to the bottom of our data. Go over to our column C. Control Shift up arrow will select the whole column. We can then paste into it and we'll get that 0 in the entire column. Okay, we need to add our header onto this. So we're going to do insert a row above. We're going to call it X, Y, and Z. And we're going to go ahead and just download it. File, download as tab separated values. Okay, so there's our second sheet. We can go ahead and look at it in our downloads area. So this is in our downloads. So here's sheet 2. Again, it does not like all those spaces in Creo. So we're going to go ahead and rename it. And we're going to call it Clark-Y dash lower. And we don't want to call TSV. We want to call PTS for points. Oops. PTS for points. So again, it asks us, are we sure? We're sure. We're going to just take a quick look at it. So we'll go ahead and open it with our notepad. And we see that we have XYZ. We got all our negative points. We can see they're all tabs separated because they're nicely aligned. So we're looking good on those. Okay, at this point, we're done with all of this. We don't need the spreadsheet any longer. So what we're going to do is we're going to just jump to Creo. So I opened up a fresh session of Creo. In this, I'm going to create a new part. We're going to call it our last name underscore Clark -Y. It's a part. We want to use the default template. We're just going to click OK. Okay, so we have a blank design. We're going to go into the right plane, select it, go ahead and do our sketch. Okay, for our sketch, we're going to do something just to give us some bearings to start with. So I'm going to add a line starting a little bit to the left of the origin, go over a bit more to the right, and finish our line. We'll dimension it. This is just so we have a reference. So what we want is we want this line to be 1 unit long. One of the nice things in Creo is that very first dimension, if we put it in without clicking anything else, it's going to scale everything to that. So notice it just snapped everything to that. We can then go in and I want to do one more dimension. I want to go from this endpoint over to my front plane and I want to say that's 0.3. Okay, so there we are. Let me go ahead and move my dimension sort of out of the way. Okay, couple things that we want to do. So I want to add some splines in here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a spline. It's going to go from the start of this. I can add a couple of points, and it doesn't really matter. I could add 2 or 3 or whatever, or 4. Um, so I'm going to add them from the front to the back, finish that spline. I'm going to add another spline on the bottom, and they can sort of look like anything. Okay, notice my shape is not shaded in. Well, that's kind of a problem. So Creo, we're not going to be able to do anything with this. So we're going to actually go in and just delete those couple segments. Oops. Notice it shades in now. Sorry, I turn this. I'm going to go back to my right plane. Okay, one last thing I need to do in order to um, update our splines is I need a coordinate system. So I'm going to go ahead and add a coordinate system in. It's over here on the left side. You can see coordinate system. I'm going to go and I'm going to add it right at the start of that. And click my middle mouse button. So I got to have a coordinate system now. So what we're going to do to edit our splines is I'm just going to go and double click on one of the splines. It'll give me a dialog here where I can actually go in and edit this. Our key is we want to not be a point or a fit. We want to go do a file. And first thing we want to do is make sure it knows where our coordinate system is. So we're going to go ahead and click the arrow to select, and then we're going to click our coordinate system. And so there's my coordinate system. I want to load my file. So I'm going to click read points from the file. So it looks like a little file open icon. I'm going to go into my downloads directory where I had these. I had selected the upper set of points, so I'm going to click the upper set of points here, and I'm going to click import. Notice it does look for type PTS. File contains a different number of points. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go ahead and continue. So here's what it's going to look like. Oh, hey, that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I'm going to do the same thing with this lower portion of my foil. Double click on it, opens up the dialog, click File. I need to select my coordinate system again, so I clicked it. I want to load in my set of points, so I'm going to go back to my downloads. I'm going to do my lower points this time. Click Import. Different number of points, yeah, that's fine. And here's what you can see it's going to look like. So at this point, yeah, that looks good to me. So I'm going to click OK. That's my set of points. Okay, one thing that I forgot to do as we started was to make sure that I was in inches, because I actually want to do this in inches today. So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and change that. So we're going to click OK. So to change our coordinates, we're going to go ahead and do a file, prepare model properties. And I want to change these units from millimeters, kilograms, seconds into the Creo default, which is inches, pounds, seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and do a set. And I don't want it to convert the dimensions. So I don't want 1 to become 1 divided by 25.4. I want it just to interpret all the numbers that I put. So I want to really be from 0 to 1 inch. So I'm going to say interpret. This is generally what you're going to want to do on all of these so that we don't do these conversions. And we're just going to click OK. And so at this point, we should be able to close that. We can see we're in inch, pound, seconds. So we're going to close that. Make sure our sketch is selected, and we're going to now extrude. So I'm just going to change the default orientation with Control D. Let's do it symmetric. And I really want to see something about 5 inches long for this foil. So let's go ahead and fit that again. So here's my airfoil. You can see it has that shape. It's 5 inches long. Um, 5 inches is going to be basically as long as we're going to be able to do our 3D printing. So this actually looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I know it's all in inches, so 1 inch by 5 inches long. All I want to do is save it. So I'm going to do File, Save as a backup. I'm going to go in to my Google Drive, 10th grade engineering, all files, and I'm going to save this part. So at this point, we've saved the part. We're actually all done. Hopefully you have success with this. And we'll look at how we can actually do something that's probably going to be a little more useful, but this gives us the basic concept of building an airfoil from a set of data points.